The morning mist enveloped the canyon, softening the sharp edges of the city below. Nadia Hart stood silently on the balcony, her mind restless and wary, as the first sunbeams painted the skyline in gold. The polished apartment gleamed, yet beneath its gleam lurked unseen tensions and quiet betrayals. Every detail, the untouched furniture, the shimmering windows, the silence in the halls, suggested a perfection she could not fully trust. She had come seeking love and a fresh start, leaving the comfort of home behind. But the fog outside mirrored the uncertainty creeping into her life. In this suspended moment, the world seemed both vast and isolating, a beautiful stage upon which the first acts of deception were already silently unfolding. The morning light fell in thin stripes across the kitchen, illuminating the immaculate countertops and the lone coffee cups steaming quietly. Nadia had imagined mornings like these, peaceful, warm, a small ritual before the day began. Yet the sterile perfection around her was deceptive. The untouched counters and gleaming appliances seemed almost to watch her, hinting at secrets that lay hidden behind polished surfaces. Trust and unease coexisted in the same space. She sipped her coffee slowly, unaware that the day ahead would unravel her sense of security. Every reflection, every shadow whispered caution. Even in the apparent calm, subtle signs of danger were present, as if the apartment itself knew of the hidden turmoil that would soon shatter her new life. Rain fell in steady sheets, turning the streets of Los Angeles into a maze of glimmering reflections. A sleek Tesla rested alone, headlights glinting against puddles, casting elongated shadows into the alley. The quietness was deceptive, hiding unseen actions and hurried decisions made under the cloak of night. Every glistening surface seemed to record secrets without speaking. In that wet stillness, the city itself felt complicit in concealing the truth. Nadia's absence was a growing void, and the empty streets seemed to echo the silent weight of what had already transpired. The city's sprawling lights, beautiful yet indifferent, bore witness to the tension of a life suspended between trust and danger, hinting at the unfolding events that would soon cast shadows far beyond these wet streets. The apartment office glowed with an eerie blue light from dozens of monitors, their data streams reflecting the calculated world of a man who lived between truth and deception. Charts, emails, encrypted messages, each screen held fragments of plans that few would ever understand. The chair, pulled back as though abandoned in haste, suggested a sudden disruption, a life interrupted. This was a space of control, order, and hidden anxieties. Every keystroke, every notification carried weight, revealing glimpses of ambition, fear, and secrets. Nadia, unaware of the invisible threads being pulled around her, had no idea the precise web being spun behind closed doors. The office, glowing in darkness, symbolized a mind sharp and methodical, yet entangled in a dangerous scheme that would soon collide with reality. The alley lay deserted, cloaked in darkness except for the intermittent flicker of a streetlight. Trash bags were strewn across damp concrete, and faint footprints disappeared into the shadowed corners, hints of movement meant to go unnoticed. The quiet air seemed thick with secrets, carrying the faintest whisper of hurried actions and deliberate concealment. What had transpired here was invisible to the casual observer, yet the alley itself bore subtle witness to choices made in desperation. The city, indifferent to its hidden corners, kept these secrets in silence. Every detail, footprints, shadows, scattered debris, painted a story of urgency and hidden truths, a visual testament to the consequences of deception lurking just out of plain sight. The bedroom was serene, bathed in the soft glow of dusk, yet it held a quiet tension. The bed remained untouched, perfectly made, suggesting calm, yet the small notebook on the side table hinted at the inner thoughts of its occupant. Nadia's handwriting filled the pages with reflections, doubts, and fears she had yet to share. The soft light falling on the furniture highlighted every detail, every line, every imperfection that might betray hidden anxiety. This space, a sanctuary in theory, had begun to harbor uncertainty. Every corner seemed to hum with anticipation, hinting at the unseen choices, the silent confrontations, and the inner turmoil that would soon manifest, forever altering the life that had appeared so orderly and secure from the outside. The canyon trail wound silently through the morning mist, dewdrops glinting on blades of grass, reflecting the gentle sun. Footsteps, fresh and deliberate, traced a path toward the hidden guesthouse tucked behind thick foliage. The scene suggested serenity, yet every step echoed with a quiet tension. Nadia had walked this trail seeking solace, perhaps clarity, but the forested path carried a sense of foreboding. The guesthouse, partially concealed from the world, offered privacy but also isolation. Every leaf, every shadowed corner, seemed to observe her passage, silent witnesses to her private thoughts. Nature's calm contrasted sharply with the undercurrent of unease, a visual metaphor for the delicate balance between trust, vulnerability, and the impending storm of secrets she was unknowingly approaching. The SUV rested silently at the canyon's edge, bathed in the warm hues of sunset. Keys lay on the driver's seat, catching the last rays of fading light, as if inviting someone to continue a journey no one knew would end. The empty vehicle reflected absence, a symbol of lives disrupted and routines interrupted. Its interior, calm and pristine, concealed the tension that had recently passed through it. The golden light streaming through windows seemed almost to spotlight the quiet secrecy of what had occurred nearby. The scene, tranquil yet heavy with implication, hinted at movements and decisions that had transpired without witnesses, every detail reinforcing the sense that ordinary spaces can silently chronicle extraordinary and troubling human events. On the rooftop, the city sprawled endlessly below, a sea of lights twinkling like distant stars. The lone figure stood at the edge, silhouetted against the neon glow, body tense, shoulders hunched as though bearing unseen weight. The urban landscape reflected opportunity and risk alike, a metaphor for the life choices that had led to this precarious moment. From up here, the world seemed both infinite and isolating, every illuminated building a silent observer of hidden struggles. Nadia, or those connected to her fate, could feel the immensity of their surroundings pressing down, the tension in the night thick and palpable. It was a view both inspiring and foreboding, a visual reminder that in sprawling cities, human drama unfolds quietly, often unnoticed until the consequences become undeniable. The hallway stretched in near-complete darkness, illuminated only by the irregular flicker of a single bulb. Shadows danced along the walls, creating shapes that seemed alive, hinting at hidden movement. A door stood slightly ajar, a sliver of warm light spilling into the gloom, drawing attention while concealing secrets behind it. Every detail suggested suspense, a pause before revelation, a threshold between safety and danger. The apartment, usually orderly and controlled, felt vulnerable in this dim half-light, and the viewer could sense the tension lurking just beyond perception. Each flicker, each shadow, and the gentle creak of the floorboards whispered of events hidden from sight, framing a visual narrative of anticipation, caution, and the fragile boundary between the ordinary and the ominous. The living room was quiet, bathed in soft shadows that shifted with the faint sway of curtains in the night breeze. A reflection in the window suggested a solitary figure, her presence almost ghostly, stretching the space between fear and contemplation. Nadia Hart's thoughts, unspoken yet heavy, mirrored the faint light that outlined her silhouette. The modern decor, neat and orderly, contrasted sharply with the turmoil beginning to seep into her life. Each shadow hinted at hidden movements, every corner held potential secrets. In the calm of the room, tension hung subtly but unmistakably. She felt the weight of unseen eyes, perhaps of trust betrayed, perhaps of danger unknown. Even within the apparent stillness, the space spoke silently of the complexities and uncertainties lurking in her new world. The sunset painted the city in shades of orange and purple, casting long shadows across the rooftop terrace. The wind whipped through hair, carrying the sense of distant streets and faint exhaust. Nadia stood alone, the weight of new beginnings pressing on her shoulders. From this height, the city seemed alive yet indifferent, its sprawling buildings reflecting both opportunity and isolation. The glowing skyline mirrored the promise she had once believed in, now tinged with unease. Every gust of wind felt like a whisper of caution. The terrace, bathed in the twilight glow, became a metaphor for her life, high, exposed, and precarious. In the quiet moment, she could feel the tension of choices made and the uncertainty of what lay ahead, the skyline silently watching, indifferent yet omnipresent. The workspace was a controlled chaos of cables, laptops, and scattered papers. Screens flickered with encrypted messages, emails half-written, data charts scrolling endlessly. A cup of coffee sat half-drunk, cooling on the desk, a silent witness to restless nights. Adrian Hale had built this environment to command precision, yet its clutter betrayed tension, sleepless calculations, and hidden decisions. The digital glow reflected off polished surfaces, casting eerie light on notes that hinted at secrets beyond comprehension. Every keystroke, every window open on the screens, told a story of manipulation, control, and hidden motives. Within this room, ambition and deception intertwined seamlessly, and those unaware of its intricacies, like Nadia, could not perceive the quiet storm gathering in the shadows of glass and circuitry. The alley glistened under the relentless rain, puddles capturing fractured reflections of neon lights above. Footprints, faint and hurried, led toward a shadowed stairway, disappearing into darkness. The wet concrete mirrored the tension that hung in the air, each step a whisper of movement meant to go unnoticed. In these quiet corners, the city hid stories of urgency, secrecy, and choices no one else would see. The alley seemed alive, observing silently the delicate dance between fear and intent. Every drop of rain, every shadow stretching across walls, amplified the feeling of anticipation, of consequences lingering just out of sight. This space, mundane by day, became a stage for clandestine actions and the quiet unraveling of lives intertwined with ambition and deception. The hallway stretched silently, adorned with modern art that seemed to watch the passage of time. A single flickering light cast uneven shadows, revealing a door left slightly ajar at the far end. Every creak of the floorboards, every faint movement of the flicker, added tension to the otherwise serene space. Nadia's presence or absence transformed ordinary corridors into stages of suspense. The hallway, elegant yet foreboding, reflected the duality of her world, beauty shadowed by uncertainty. In the half-light, one could almost feel the invisible weight of unseen choices, each door a threshold to hidden truths. The space spoke silently of anticipation, fear, and the consequences of actions concealed just beyond view, waiting to unfold in moments of quiet intensity. The breakfast tray sat untouched, a quiet testament to routines interrupted. Steam rose gently from the cup of tea, curling into the morning light that spilled across the polished counter. Silverware gleamed, perfectly aligned, yet the scene felt oddly still, as if time had paused. Nadia's absence, or her preoccupation, lent the arrangement an eerie significance. The room, warm and inviting, contrasted with the subtle tension lingering in the air. Every reflection, every gleam of sunlight, highlighted the quiet normalcy that had begun to fray at the edges. The untouched meal became a metaphor for a life momentarily suspended, a life on the precipice of change. In the calm of domesticity, uncertainty hovered silently, hinting at the unraveling moments to come. The lamppost flickered, casting intermittent pools of light over wet pavement that reflected the quiet city around it. A shadow moved swiftly along the wall, deliberate, cautious, and unnoticed. The street, ordinary by day, became a conduit for actions meant to remain hidden in darkness. Every detail, the puddles, the uneven light, the brief movement of a figure, told a story of choices made under pressure, decisions concealed from the world. Nadia's life, already tinged with unease, mirrored the street's dual nature, calm yet fraught with unseen tension. The scene captured the precarious balance between visibility and concealment, trust and betrayal, as the city silently bore witness to the unfolding drama in its shadowed corners. The balcony stretched into darkness, the city lights sparkling like distant stars below. An empty chair faced outward, inviting yet solitary, its presence accentuated by the gentle sway of a curtain in the night breeze. The stillness was deceptive, hinting at absence, longing, and decisions made behind closed doors. Nadia's world had become a series of empty spaces, where the familiar felt strange and the safe seemed fragile. The city below, indifferent to individual struggles, reflected both possibility and peril. Every flicker of light, every movement of fabric, seemed to echo her inner turmoil, a silent testament to the tension building between hope, trust, and the unforeseen dangers lurking in moments of quiet reflection. The patterned floor reflected the faint light seeping from beneath a slightly open door. Shadows stretched across walls, shifting as the hallway's single light flickered sporadically. The space, elegant yet subtly ominous, suggested secrets moving unseen. Each step echoed quietly, marking passage through tension-filled air. Nadia's life, once orderly, now mirrored the hallway, structured, familiar, yet concealing uncertainty at every turn. Every shadow seemed alive, every flicker a reminder of events hidden from immediate view. The elegant corridor became a stage of suspense, anticipation, and concealed truths, silently bearing witness to the quiet unfolding of a story filled with trust, doubt, and the invisible threads of decisions made in the shadows. Fog drifted in from the canyon hills, wrapping the balcony in soft, muted grays. A lone figure clutched a phone, standing rigid near the railing, her gaze fixed somewhere between horizon and uncertainty. Nadia's world felt suspended in the haze, each breath thick with tension. The modern apartment behind her gleamed untouched, betraying none of the subtle chaos of her thoughts. Every detail, the mist, the stillness of the city below, the faint hum of distant traffic, amplified her sense of isolation. In that quiet, suspended moment, the balcony became both refuge and trap, a vantage point over a world that had begun to shift beneath her feet, a visual metaphor for the delicate balance between safety, trust, and the creeping presence of unseen danger. The living room sat in muted darkness, only the soft glow of a television cutting through the shadows. The furniture remained pristine, untouched, as though preserving the illusion of normalcy. Yet every corner whispered unease, as if the room itself was aware of the tension lurking within. Nadia Hart had once imagined evenings filled with laughter and calm, but now silence had claimed the space. The flickering light reflected fleeting images across polished surfaces, revealing nothing yet hinting at everything that had occurred behind closed doors. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation, a quiet prelude to disruption. Even in this calm, ordinary setting, the traces of uncertainty were palpable, and the room bore silent witness to decisions and actions that would soon alter lives irreversibly. The rain-slicked streets shimmered under neon lights, puddles capturing fractured reflections of apartment windows above. The distorted images created a dreamlike effect, blurring reality with illusion. In these reflections, every window held a story, a secret, a hidden truth. Nadia's absence, though not immediately visible, seemed to echo across the streets, resonating in the quiet lapping of rainwater along the pavement. The city appeared alive yet indifferent to the personal dramas unfolding behind closed doors. Every gleam and ripple in the puddles whispered caution, anticipation, and the weight of decisions concealed. The interplay of light and water mirrored the precarious balance of perception and reality, creating a visual metaphor for trust and deception lurking within seemingly ordinary spaces. Dusk filtered through the windows, casting long shadows across the kitchen countertops. The single chair, pulled back slightly from the table, suggested recent presence, or sudden absence. Everything else remained perfectly arranged, the gleaming surfaces reflecting the fading light like silent witnesses. Nadia's world, meticulously ordered, had begun to show cracks. The empty chair symbolized solitude and uncertainty, a small but telling sign that things were not as they seemed. Each glint of sunlight on the counters mirrored the tension creeping into the apartment. In this quiet moment, the space spoke volumes, about interrupted routines, unseen conflicts, and decisions quietly shaping the path of a life once considered secure. The kitchen, a place of domestic normalcy, now held a weight of suspense and foreboding. The hallway stretched into muted darkness, lined with closed doors that kept their secrets silently. One door stood slightly ajar, spilling a pool of warm light into the corridor, a small breach in the otherwise controlled shadows. Every flicker and crease of shadow seemed amplified, hinting at hidden movement behind the walls. Nadia's life mirrored the hallway, outwardly orderly, yet concealing uncertainty and tension. The corridor itself became a silent observer, holding the echoes of decisions and moments no one else could see. Each step along the patterned floor was a step through suspense, through anticipation, through the quiet unraveling of trust and perception. The scene was a visual reminder that appearances could be deceiving, and that even familiar spaces could harbor invisible risks. Twilight painted the city below in muted shades of violet and gold, reflecting the transition from day to night. On the balcony, a lone figure leaned against the railing, hair tousled by the gentle wind, posture tense with unspoken concern. Nadia's thoughts stretched outward, searching for clarity amid uncertainty. The city shimmered with opportunity, yet its brilliance belied a latent danger, the kind that arrives quietly, unnoticed until it has already altered lives. The balcony, exposed yet protective, symbolized both vantage and vulnerability. Every light below, every shifting shadow, echoed the complexity of her world, a life suspended between trust and fear, certainty and suspense. The moment captured the fragile balance of control and chaos, the precarious edge of safety in a world quietly unraveling. The luxury SUV rested silently under the street lamp, its windows capturing the faint glow of the light above. Keys left in the ignition hinted at sudden departure or deliberate absence. The wet pavement reflected the soft yellow illumination, giving the scene an otherworldly, suspended quality. Every puddle, every reflection seemed to mark traces of actions meant to be hidden, movements unseen by the casual observer. The SUV became more than a vehicle, it was a silent witness to the quiet tension and choices that had already taken root. In its stillness, the car spoke of absence, uncertainty, and the fragile illusion of control, a subtle marker in the sequence of events that would soon define a life disrupted and a story unfolding in shadows. The canyon path was shrouded in early morning fog, the damp air heavy with anticipation. Footprints pressed into the soft earth led toward a secluded guesthouse, barely visible behind thick trees. Each step seemed to echo silently, carrying the weight of decisions made in isolation. Nadia's movements were measured yet tense, the morning mist amplifying both beauty and uncertainty. The guesthouse, hidden from view, offered privacy but also isolation, a duality mirrored in her inner world. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bird call seemed laden with forewarning. Nature's stillness contrasted sharply with the emotional storm, visually underscoring the fragile balance between trust and vulnerability, secrecy and revelation. In a life poised on the edge of change, the bedroom remained calm, bathed in the soft glow of a bedside lamp. Curtains hung partially drawn, letting just enough light spill onto the untouched bed to cast quiet shadows. The meticulous order of the room spoke of routine, yet the stillness was deceptive. Nadia's absence, or perhaps preoccupation, lent every detail a subtle tension. The lamp's warm illumination seemed almost conspiratorial, highlighting both comfort and unease in equal measure. Every object, from the folded blankets to the polished nightstand, hinted at lives carefully curated but silently unsettled. The space captured the fragile boundary between familiarity and disruption, serenity and suspense, a quiet testament to the emotional currents quietly reshaping her world. Rain slicked the street, puddles mirroring fractured reflections of distant lights. The narrow staircase descended into shadow, partially obscured by darkness and mist. Each step, each echo of falling droplets, suggested a hidden passage into uncertainty. The city beyond appeared vibrant and alive, yet indifferent to the subtle human dramas unfolding in its shadowed corners. Nadia's absence, or the presence of choices she could not yet see, hovered in the quiet night air. Every reflection, every blurred light, emphasized the tension between visibility and concealment. The scene became a metaphor for the delicate dance of trust, secrecy, and consequence, capturing the essence of a life poised at the intersection of ordinary spaces and extraordinary events. The balcony overlooked a city blanketed in soft dawn fog, streets blurred into muted lines and glimmers of gold. A lone figure held a phone, leaning slightly against the railing, body tense with concern and anticipation. Nadia's gaze wandered outward, searching for clarity in a world suddenly uncertain. The modern apartment behind her gleamed untouched, a silent contrast to the invisible storm gathering around her life. Every wisp of fog, every muted light from distant windows, mirrored the uncertainty creeping into her existence. The balcony, exposed yet intimate, became a vantage point and a metaphor for vulnerability, a quiet reminder that even in familiar spaces, trust and security can shift unexpectedly, leaving the faintest traces of tension in the early morning light. The hallway stretched silently, adorned with patterned flooring that reflected the dim light from a lone ceiling fixture. At its far end, a door stood slightly ajar, spilling warm light into the shadows. The contrast between illumination and darkness created a sense of suspense, as if the walls themselves held their breath. Nadia's footsteps echoed faintly, blending with the soft hum of the apartment's air system. Every shadow seemed alive, hinting at secrets moving unseen. The hallway, once a mere passage, had transformed into a corridor of tension and anticipation. It reflected the fragility of trust, the uncertainty of hidden intentions, and the invisible threads of choices that were quietly shaping events just beyond sight. Dawn crept softly through sheer curtains, painting the bedroom with muted golden hues. The untouched cup of tea on the bedside table spoke of routines paused, of moments disrupted before they could begin. Nadia had once imagined mornings of calm reflection, where the warmth of sunlight and tea marked a comforting start. Yet the room, serene in appearance, carried an invisible weight, tension unspoken, doubts unvoiced. Every shimmer of light on polished surfaces reflected a fragile equilibrium, the balance between trust and the subtle unease creeping into her life. In this quiet moment, the bedroom became a silent witness to choices and secrets, an intimate arena where control and vulnerability intersected, quietly signaling the changes soon to unfold. Rain slicked the streets, creating a mirror of fractured lights in each puddle. A distant figure moved briskly, feet splashing lightly, disappearing and reappearing in reflections distorted by ripples. The night was both alive and indifferent, concealing movements that spoke of urgency, hidden intentions, and quiet anxieties. Every flash of light and shadow painted a picture of a world that observed silently while allowing human drama to unfold unchecked. Nadia's presence, absent or transient, lingered in the atmosphere like a whisper, her story intersecting with spaces ordinary to all but charged with unseen tension. The puddles, the wet asphalt, the blurred neon, all became visual metaphors for decisions made in shadows and the fragile boundary between safety and exposure. The laptop glowed faintly in the darkness, its screen filled with encrypted emails and financial spreadsheets, a digital web of secrets. The half-empty coffee cup beside it suggested long nights, decisions made under pressure, and calculations designed to evade detection. Every click, every typed line reflected ambition and deception intertwined, the precision of a mind both brilliant and dangerous. Nadia, unaware of the silent manipulations unfolding around her, remained outside this realm of calculated risk. The desk, its cluttered yet methodical arrangement, symbolized the delicate balance between control and vulnerability. Within the glow of the screen, every detail hinted at hidden motives, secret transactions, and choices quietly orchestrated, shaping a narrative that the world would eventually uncover in its full complexity. The rooftop terrace stretched into the night, overlooking the city ablaze with shimmering lights. A single chair faced outward, empty, suggesting absence, waiting, or contemplation. The urban landscape, vibrant yet distant, mirrored the tension in Nadia's life, opportunity laced with vulnerability, beauty tempered by uncertainty. The gentle hum of distant traffic contrasted sharply with the silence of the terrace, where anticipation seemed to hang in the air like a tangible presence. Each shadow, each glimmer of light, amplified the quiet suspense. The terrace became a stage for reflection and unease, a metaphor for exposure and isolation. From this vantage, one could sense the fragile balance of trust and secrecy, the invisible currents of human choice quietly shaping the narrative below. The alley lay shrouded in night, scattered trash bags punctuating the shadows. Faint footprints led into darkness, disappearing as if swallowed by the surrounding gloom. The scene was ordinary yet fraught with tension, each detail whispering of actions meant to remain hidden. Nadia's absence lingered in the damp air, a quiet void in a space that had witnessed fleeting movement. Every flicker of distant neon light, every damp echo from the concrete walls hinted at choices made in haste, concealment, and calculation. The alley became a silent observer, a physical space where the ordinary masked the extraordinary. Here, in the stillness and shadows, suspense and secrecy intertwined, recording moments that would later become key pieces in a story of trust, deception, and the fragile fragility of perceived safety. Sunrise painted the canyon hills in soft pastels, the fog rolling gently over rooftops like a veil of quiet mystery. On the balcony, a lone figure leaned lightly against the railing, hair stirred by the breeze, posture tense with thought. Nadia's gaze swept the city below, seeking clarity in a morning that should have been calm. The juxtaposition of warm light, soft fog, and silent space amplified the sense of unease, a life poised between promise and vulnerability. Each breath of wind seemed to carry unspoken warnings, each shadow reflected the delicate balance between trust and the encroaching uncertainty. The balcony, perched above the awakening city, became both a vantage point and a symbol of exposure, capturing a fragile moment before the unfolding of irrevocable events. The corridor stretched silently, the patterned carpet absorbing shadows and faint light. A single door stood ajar, spilling warmth into the hallway like a whisper of life within. The space felt ordinary yet charged, every step echoing through tension-laden air. Nadia's world mirrored this corridor, structured and familiar on the surface, but concealing currents of uncertainty and anticipation. The interplay of dim light and darkness heightened every detail, from the flicker of reflections to the subtle creak of floorboards. In the quiet of night, the corridor became a visual metaphor for choices made behind closed doors, for secrets waiting in the wings, and for the invisible forces quietly shaping the narrative of trust, deception, and the fragile balance of control. Dusk filtered softly through the kitchen windows, stretching shadows across polished countertops. A single cup of coffee emitted faint steam, a silent witness to interrupted routines and quiet anticipation. Nadia's presence, or absence, imbued the space with tension, turning domestic normalcy into a scene laden with suspense. Every gleam of light across the counters reflected subtle unease, a life balance between trust and doubt. The room, warm and inviting in appearance, concealed the undercurrents of choice and consequence quietly shaping events beyond perception. In this intimate moment, the kitchen became a metaphor for fragility, exposure, and the invisible threads of human behavior quietly orchestrating the next chapter of a story unfolding in shadows. The balcony glistened under a veil of rain, city lights refracted in shimmering reflections across the wet surfaces. Nadia stood with a phone clutched in hand, fog curling around the rooftops, wrapping the city in quiet secrecy. The scene was calm yet taut with tension, every glimmer of light echoing uncertainty. The wet surfaces mirrored the precarious balance between trust and betrayal, solitude and intrusion. Each breath of wind, each ripple of fog, seemed to whisper warnings. The balcony, exposed yet protective, offered a vantage point over a world quietly shifting beneath her feet. This visual encapsulated anticipation, unease, and the fragile line between perception and reality in a life poised on the edge of irrevocable events. The balcony stretched into the night, overlooking a city alive with shimmering lights. A lone chair lay tipped slightly, as if someone had risen hastily, leaving behind a quiet trace. Shadows stretched across the tiles, bending and twisting with the flicker of distant neon. Nadia's life mirrored this stillness, calm on the surface, yet taut with invisible tension. The glowing skyline below seemed indifferent to human drama unfolding above it. Every reflection and shadow became a subtle witness to actions taken in secrecy, decisions made with hidden intent. The balcony, serene yet charged with anticipation, captured the delicate balance between visibility and concealment, a visual testament to the fragility of trust and the quiet shaping of consequences in the spaces we assume are safe. The living room lay in quiet darkness, the TV off, polished wooden floors reflecting distant city lights like scattered stars. The sofa remained untouched, its pristine cushions hinting at absence and interruption. Every detail whispered of normalcy fractured, of routines suddenly suspended. Nadia's presence was felt in the stillness, in the way shadows leaned against walls, in the subtle tension lingering in air heavy with unspoken thoughts. The room, orderly yet foreboding, held invisible stories of trust and doubt, of decisions quietly influencing lives behind closed doors. Even in stillness, the environment spoke, revealing that appearances could deceive, and that ordinary spaces often hold extraordinary human dramas, silently observing while events unfold beyond the awareness of casual eyes. Morning fog rolled gently over the canyon trail, settling on dewy grass that glimmered like fragile crystal. In the distance, a silhouette moved deliberately toward the thick trees hiding a secluded guesthouse. Nadia's steps, measured yet tentative, mirrored the uncertainty in her mind. The trail, tranquil by day, now felt like a corridor of suspense and anticipation, each footfall echoing through misty silence. The natural beauty contrasted sharply with the tension of her journey, highlighting the delicate interplay of solitude, vulnerability, and the unseen forces guiding her path. Every rustle of leaves and faint bird call seemed charged with meaning, a silent reminder that choices made in isolation often ripple outward in ways impossible to predict. The kitchen sat in near darkness, illuminated only by faint under-cabinet lights that cast long, soft shadows. A cup of tea steamed gently on the spotless countertop, untouched and waiting. The room's perfection belied the tension underlying the moment, a life carefully curated, yet quietly fraying at the edges. Nadia's world, meticulously arranged, was suspended in this intimate stillness, every reflection hinting at unseen stress and uncertainty. The interplay of light, shadow, and stillness amplified the sense of anticipation, turning the ordinary kitchen into a stage of quiet suspense. Within this simple space, the fragility of trust and control became palpable, each object a silent witness to choices and consequences quietly shaping the narrative. The hallway stretched silently, lined with sleek modern art that seemed to absorb the flickering light. The polished floor reflected a shadow, subtle, fleeting, hinting at presence without revealing identity. Nadia's life, much like this corridor, appeared orderly yet carried a weight of anticipation and hidden tension. Every shift of shadow, every subtle movement in the dim glow, amplified a sense of suspense. The hallway was a witness, silent yet observant, recording the invisible choices and actions that often go unnoticed until consequences arrive. Ordinary spaces, here, became extraordinary markers of human behavior, of trust tested, vulnerability exposed, and decisions quietly shaping outcomes in ways both visible and unseen. The fog crept over the hills like a gentle shroud, dimming the city below to a haze of muted color. On the balcony, a lone figure held a cup, posture tense, as if balancing between reflection and apprehension. Nadia's gaze swept outward, seeking clarity amid uncertainty. The delicate interplay of soft light, fog, and the faint shimmer of distant streets created a scene both serene and charged with tension. The balcony became a space of exposure and contemplation, a vantage point where the quiet drama of trust, doubt, and unseen consequences played out. Every breath of wind, every curling wisp of mist, carried unspoken warnings, transforming a simple morning into a moment heavy with anticipation and unacknowledged threat. The office glowed faintly in the darkness, monitors displaying encrypted messages, financial data, and hidden communications. A chair had been pushed back abruptly, hinting at sudden movement or interruption. Every screen, every flicker of light, suggested precision, ambition, and subtle manipulation. Nadia remained unaware of the complex orchestration quietly unfolding around her, a web of calculations and secrecy invisible to her perception. The office, methodical yet chaotic, captured the tension between control and unpredictability. Each detail, the cluttered desk, glowing monitors, abandoned chair, became evidence of hidden pressures, decisions, and actions shaping events that would soon ripple outward, altering lives quietly but irrevocably. The alley glistened under relentless rain, puddles capturing distorted neon reflections that fractured the night into shards of light. Faint footprints led toward a doorway shrouded in shadow, disappearing as if swallowed by the darkness. The city, vibrant yet indifferent, concealed acts of haste and hidden intent in its quiet corners. Nadia's absence seemed to echo through the damp air, every reflection and ripple accentuating the unseen tension. Ordinary streets became stages for clandestine movements, silent witnesses to decisions, fear, and secrecy. In this muted landscape, every subtle detail, the footprints, wet surfaces, glimmers of light, spoke of consequences quietly unfolding, a visual metaphor for the delicate balance between trust, risk, and hidden intentions. Twilight descended over the city, casting a muted glow that softened buildings into silhouettes. On the balcony, a lone figure leaned against the railing, the faint light of a phone illuminating her face in the dim haze. Nadia's posture was tense, contemplative, as if balancing fragile hope with underlying apprehension. The fog curling around nearby rooftops blurred the boundaries between observation and exposure. Every flicker of light, every shadow stretching across tiles, amplified the tension in the air. The balcony, exposed yet private, became a vantage point for reflection and anticipation, a moment suspended between serenity and the unseen currents of choice, secrecy, and consequence quietly shaping her reality. Dawn broke gently, fog rolling across the city like a soft veil, muting colors and sounds into a quiet hush. The rooftop terrace lay empty, a single chair facing outward and a faintly steaming coffee cup on the floor, untouched. Shadows stretched across tiles, shifting subtly in the first light, hinting at absence and anticipation. Nadia's world, poised between comfort and uncertainty, was captured in this fragile moment, a space of reflection, vulnerability, and unspoken tension. The terrace offered a panoramic view of a city unaware of the drama unfolding above it. Every detail, from mist to light to shadow, told a story of human choices quietly shaping consequences, a visual testament to the delicate interplay of trust, exposure, and the unseen forces guiding lives in subtle, irrevocable ways. If you enjoyed this story, support us by liking and subscribing today.